I stared at the small white oval pill sitting in the palm of my hand. My husband Mark was in the kitchen, whistling a cheerful tune while he poured me a glass of water. To anyone else, he looked like the perfect, doting husband. But as I looked at that pill, the vitamin he had been insisting I take every morning for the last 6 months, I felt a chill that went straight to my marrow. Earlier that morning, I had found a hidden prescription bottle in the back of his gym bag. It wasn't vitamins. It was a heavy-duty sedative and amnesiac medication used for severe psychiatric patients to induce twilight sleep and memory dissociation. For months, I had been feeling foggy. I'd lose my keys, forget appointments, and wake up with bruises I couldn't explain. Every time I questioned my sanity, Mark would hug me tightly and whisper, "It's okay, Clara. Your mind is just tired. Thank God I'm here to take care of you." I realized then that he wasn't taking care of me. He was erasing me. He was turning me into an unreliable witness to my own life. And as I heard his footsteps approaching the bedroom, I did the only thing I could do to survive. I tucked the pill under my tongue, waited for him to see me swallow the water, and gave him the most loving, vacant smile I could muster. The hunt had begun, but he didn't know he was the prey. To understand how we got here, you have to understand who Mark and I were. We were the it couple. I met Mark 5 years ago, when I was a rising star in architectural design. I had just inherited my grandfather's estate, a sprawling, historic property on the coast, and a trust fund that secured my future. Mark was a charming, ambitious consultant who seemed to worship the ground I walked on. Our wedding was something out of a magazine. He told me he didn't care about my money, he just wanted my heart. For the first 3 years, it was bliss. He encouraged me to quit my high-stress job and focus on my art. He took over the household finances, saying he wanted to shield me from the stress. I thought I was living a dream. I had a man who cooked for me, took care of the bills, and reminded me every day how beautiful I was. He was my world. When my mother passed away a year ago, I leaned on him entirely. That's when the forgetfulness started. At first, I blamed grief. I'd forget if I had eaten lunch, or I'd find the stove left on. Mark would sigh, look at me with pity, and say, "Clara, honey, you're getting worse. Maybe we should limit your time outside. You're becoming a danger to yourself." I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He was the man who held me while I cried. He was the man who promised to protect me. I didn't realize he was building a cage out of my own grief. He started handling all the mail, changed the passwords to our shared accounts for security, and slowly, my friends stopped calling. He told them I was going through a mental breakdown and needed absolute privacy. I was isolated, drugged, and being prepared for a slaughter I never saw coming. The first real crack in the mask happened 3 months ago. I was cleaning the guest room, a room Mark strictly told me to stay out of because he was storing sensitive work documents there. I found a receipt for a jewelry store. It was for a Cartier necklace. My birthday had passed 2 weeks prior, and he had given me a hand-drawn card, saying we needed to save money for my medical treatments. The necklace cost $8,000. It wasn't in my jewelry box. Then there was Tiffany. Tiffany was Mark's new assistant. He started staying late at the office, claiming the company was struggling. But one night, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I usually never looked, but a notification caught my eye. It was an Instagram alert. A photo tag. I opened it. It was a picture of Mark and Tiffany at a high-end gala I didn't even know existed. The caption read, "Behind every great man is a queen who actually knows how to keep him happy. Can't wait for our new home, Em." My heart stopped. I checked the date. It was from the night Mark told me he was working late to pay for my neurologists. I began to notice other things. The way he would smirk when I told him I couldn't remember where I put my phone. The way he started bringing up power of attorney in casual conversations, telling me it would be easier if he could sign documents for me since my episodes were getting so bad. He was gaslighting me on a professional level. He wasn't just cheating, he was harvesting my life. He wanted the house, the inheritance, and the freedom. And he wanted me in an institution so I couldn't stop him. The breaking point, the moment my soul went cold, happened last Tuesday. I had started faking taking the vitamins for a full week. My head was finally clearing. The fog was lifting, and for the first time in months I could think. I decided to play the part of the sick wife one last time. I told Mark one was feeling very drowsy and was going to sleep early. Instead, I hid a voice-activated recorder under the sofa in his home office. 2 hours later, I heard the front door open. It wasn't just Mark. I heard a woman's laughter, high, sharp, and mocking. It was Tiffany. I crept to the top of the stairs, staying in the shadows. They were in the hallway, right below me. Is the crazy lady out cold? Tiffany asked, her voice dripping with disdain. She took her special vitamin an hour ago, Mark replied. I could hear the smirk in his voice. She'll be a zombie until noon tomorrow. The doctor says another month of this dosage, and her cognitive functions will be permanently impaired. It'll be an open and shut case for the conservatorship. I can't wait to move in, Tiffany sighed. This house is gorgeous. How did a pathetic thing like her end up with all this? Luck, Mark said. But luck runs out. Once the papers are signed, and she's tucked away in that private facility, we sell the estate, take the trust fund, and disappear to the coast. She won't even remember my name, let alone what I took from her. I stood there in the dark, my hands shaking, not from fear, but from a rage so pure it felt like ice water in my veins. They weren't just waiting for me to get sick. They were actively destroying my brain to steal my grandfather's legacy. I went back to my room, lay in bed, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I realized that if I confronted him now, he'd just call the police and tell them I was having a manic episode. He had spent months building the evidence that I was insane. I couldn't use the law. I couldn't use the truth. Not yet. If Mark wanted a wife who was losing her mind, I was going to give him exactly that. But I wasn't going to be the one who ended up in a cell. I spent the rest of the night plotting. I knew his passwords. I knew his mistress's name. And I knew exactly how much he loved my money. He thinks he's erasing my memory. Little does he know, I'm about to make him wish he could forget everything he's ever done. The next morning, I woke up before Mark. I felt a clarity I hadn't known in months. My rage had crystallized into a mission. When Mark walked in with his usual sweet smile and my vitamin, I didn't flinch. I took the pill, tucked it under my tongue, and drank the water. As soon as he left the room, I spat it out into a small silk pouch I had hidden under my pillow. I now had a collection of his crimes growing day by day. I knew I couldn't just leave. If I left, he'd use his power of attorney and my medical records to track me down and bring me back as a flight risk patient. I had to strip him of his power first. Step 1. The money. Mark had changed all my banking passwords, but he was arrogant. He used a variation of Tiffany's birthday for everything. It took me 3 tries to get in. I saw the horror. He had already drained nearly 30% of my trust fund, transferring it into an investment account that only he controlled. I didn't move the money back yet. That would alert him. Instead, I contacted my grandfather's old lawyer, Mr. Henderson, a man Mark told me had retired and moved away. A quick Google search revealed he was still practicing 10 miles away. I drove to his office while Mark was at work, pretending to be on a walk. When I showed Mr. Henderson the pill and the recording of Mark and Tiffany, the old man's face turned white. Clara, he whispered. We can go to the police right now. No, I said, my voice as cold as a grave. If we go to the police, he'll hire a high-priced lawyer with my money and claim I'm delusional. I want him to have nothing. I want him to watch his world burn, and I want him to be the one who looks insane. For the next 2 weeks, I became the director of a horror movie, and Mark was the unsuspecting star. I started small. I moved his car keys from the kitchen counter to the inside of the refrigerator. When he couldn't find them, I'd say, Mark, honey, you put them there this morning. Don't you remember? You said you wanted to keep them cool. You looked so tired. I'm worried about your memory. He laughed it off at first, but I saw the flicker of confusion in his eyes. Then, I went deeper. I bought a second phone, identical to his. Every night while he slept, I'd swap them. On the fake phone, I had set up a script that would delete his sent messages to Tiffany every hour. He would text her, I love you, and an hour later, the message would be gone. When Tiffany would call him screaming that he was ignoring her, Mark would look at his phone, see no sent messages, and start to sweat. I began making appointments in his name, expensive, ridiculous appointments. A Ferrari test drive, a consultation for a hair transplant, a yacht club membership. When the sales reps called him to confirm, he would stammer that he never called them. I'd stand in the doorway, tilting my head, whispering, Mark, you were talking about Ferraris all night in your sleep. Are you sure you're okay? Maybe you should take one of these vitamins. He was losing his grip. He was so focused on my insanity that he didn't notice he was drowning in his own. The day of the big move arrived. Mark had planned to have me committed to a private facility that afternoon. He had even invited Tiffany over to help pack my things once the ambulance took me away. At 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. Mark opened it, expecting the medical transport team. Instead, he found 4 people: Mr. Henderson, 2 police officers, and a forensic accountant. What is this? Mark stammered, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. I walked down the stairs, dressed in my best suit, no longer the sick wife in a bathrobe. I looked sharp, lethal, and very much in control. The game is over, Mark, I said. Clara, you're having an episode, he shouted, turning to the police. She's dangerous. She's been hallucinating for months. I have the medical records. Actually, Mr. Henderson stepped forward. We have the toxicology report from the pills you've been feeding her. We also have the recordings of you and Miss Tiffany discussing how to permanently impair Clara's cognitive functions. And most importantly, we have the paper trail of the $200,000 you embezzled from her trust fund. At that moment, Tiffany walked out from the kitchen, holding a glass of wine, oblivious to the front door. When she saw the police, she dropped the glass. It shattered, just like their plan. Mark tried one last desperate move. She's lying. She's crazy. Look at her. But I had one last surprise. I had spent the previous week adjusting the household cameras. I played a video on the large living room TV. It wasn't a video of me being sick. It was a video of Mark, caught in 4K, grinding up the sedative pills and stirring them into my morning water while laughing with Tiffany on speakerphone about which bedroom they would turn into a walk-in closet. The police didn't need to hear anymore. The perfect husband was let out in handcuffs, screaming that it was all a mistake. Tiffany was escorted out right behind him, charged as an accessory to attempted aggravated assault and fraud. As the house went quiet, I sat in my grandfather's favorite armchair. I was alone, but for the first time in years, I wasn't lonely. I was free. I sold the house a month later. There were too many ghosts there. I moved to the city, restarted my architectural firm, and used the recovered funds to start a foundation for women who are victims of domestic gaslighting and financial abuse. The lesson I learned is one I want every woman listening to this to remember. Never let a man convince you that your intuition is insanity. If something feels wrong, it is wrong. Your mind is your greatest asset. Don't let anyone hold the key to it. They will try to make you feel small so they can feel powerful. They will try to make you feel confused so they can control the narrative. But the truth has a way of rising to the surface, especially when you're the one holding the flashlight. Mark thought he was erasing my life, but all he did was teach me how to fight for it. Today, I am more successful, more alert, and more powerful than I ever was as his perfect wife. I didn't just survive. I won. This story is a reminder that the people closest to us can sometimes be the most dangerous. I want to ask you all a serious question. Have you ever felt like someone was gaslighting you? Did you trust your gut? Or did you believe them? Do you think Mark's punishment fit the crime? Or should Clara have done something even more drastic? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of justice served. Until next time, stay sharp.